Hey, I'm Vulture Culture, and this is Knobcon 2023. Go check it out. Here's what you missed at Knobcon 2023. First off, the performances. Imagine this. You've been on flights or at the airport all day. You get to the hotel, you're exhausted. You go up to your room, drop off your bags, and go behind the building to a giant tent. You open the doors, and inside there are angelic arpeggios lilting over the top of a powerful bass coming from a Buchla easel, which is celebrating its 50th birthday. Over the top of that, Nick Quas is making his violin weep. It was truly a numinous experience. You could feel the energy of the room. Everyone was entranced, gobsmacked by the sheer beauty of what they were hearing. Such a tremendous way to start the event off. There were so many inspiring performances that I decided to do a separate video of my top 5 performances at Knobcon this year, which I will link on the end screen. So watch until the very end of the video if you want to see that. Artists include P.O.B., Tammy X, Dubstation Zero, and Vamp Acid. I want to highlight a few performances here though. First is Space Racer's Saturday night set, rolling out hypnotic and groovy techno. She's also set to become an astronaut, which is pretty spectacular, as well as the co-founder of SoCal Synth Society. Skylar King, aka Kitty Spit's set from Friday, was also a standout for me. What I found particularly fascinating about his set was that none of the modules in his case were tracking volts to octaves, meaning the whole set had to be done by ear. Pretty incredible. Finally, Andy Ortman, I believe, did one of the most enigmatic performances I've ever seen. He started off with a minimal modular setup which sounded like manipulation of classical recordings. Then he stopped touching his setup and stared dead-eyed into the crowd while disturbing noises rang out at max volume. It was like the drugs hit and his mind fell out of our reality and into another dimension, leaving his body behind. You could see the confusion on everyone's faces. My favorite part was where he checked his set list to make sure he was on the right song. Priceless. The second thing you missed at Knobcon was the vintage synthesizers. Synth City showed up in a big way. They're a division of Rock and Roll Vintage in Chicago that specializes in repairing and curating vintage synthesizers, and their display was mind-boggling. The star of the show was their Fairlight CMI, an incredibly expensive and rare vintage sampler. I believe this is a Series 2 which was released in 1982. This instrument was used by everyone who could afford it, from Peter Gabriel to Jan Hammer to Hans Zimmer to Prince. This incredible instrument, the first of its kind to be able to create quote-unquote realistic strings and horn sounds, was used so heavily in the 80s that Phil Collins wrote on the sleeve notes of his 1985 album No Jacket Required that there is no Fairlight on this record. They had plenty of other classics like the Roland SH-101 in gorgeous blue, a Moog Source, Prodigy, and Sonic 6, an Octave Cat, an ARP 2600, and an EMS VCS-3, which was used by Pink Floyd on the song Welcome to the Machine. If I could afford any of their synths though, it would have been their Yamaha CS30, an absolute dream synth I've always coveted. Speaking of vintage synths, if you're enjoying the background music of this video, all of the sounds are from my new patch library Neon Chronicles, which works on both the Roland Cloud VST and hardware versions of the Roland D50. The link for the preset library is in the description. Use code KNOBCON2023 for 20% off. Okay, back to the video. The third thing you missed at Knobcon was all of the gear. I cannot express how overwhelming it is the first time you walk onto the floor. Of course, some of the big players like Sequential, Oberheim, and Novation were there, but the coolest part was getting a chance to meet all of the creators from the smaller companies. A lot of the time it would be 1 or 2 people who make everything in their garage themselves, and you can feel the passion radiating off of them. Similar to the performances, it wouldn't be fair to anyone to cram in a bunch of 30-second clips into this video, so if you click the annotation above, or the link in the description, you'll find my Knobcon 2023 coverage playlist, where I spotlight the 10 most compelling smaller creators and their products. So if you're a gear slut like me, definitely check that out after you're done watching this video. Here's something you can't buy though. This is a tin can monstrosity of modular synthesis created by Modular for the masses. It looks like something out of a Mad Max movie. Pretty neat. The fourth and perhaps most important thing you missed out on at Knobcon was the community. Walking around the exhibition floor are a bunch of YouTubers you're probably already watching, like Venus Theory and Jorb, and I'm happy to confirm they're both really nice guys. I even ate a cookie baked by Venus Theory's wife, and it was life-changingly delicious. I got to meet people who've been watching this channel, which was also a surreal experience. If you said hi to me at Knobcon, I want to say thank you. YouTubing can feel like screaming into the void, and you guys really made the entire trip for me. You're also going to meet people like Dane. I love Dane. Here's Dane.
Oh, so this is Dane, the most crisp man here.
Yeah,
the
crisp.
mustache, on point.
Jesus Christ. I bought 2 modules.
You got 2 modules. What'd you get?
I bought the 100 grit, which is awesome.
Why did you buy
I knew
100?
when I saw it, I was like, oh, god damn it.
Did
I knew I was going to buy it.
Did you hear it at all before you bought it, or just...
Yeah, I've watched videos and drooled about it for a long time, but then I saw the guy. I made him sign it, too. I gave him a Sharpie, and then I bought a really fancy oscilloscope. It doesn't even make any fucking noise. What the fuck am I doing with my life?
So is that going in the rack, or do you have room for it in there?
Does that matter?
Isn't that man a treasure? There's several stages that seem to happen with every hobby, interest, or scene over time. At first, the hobby is only for the real hardcore, those who have divergent enough neurology that they would be excited about something only 24 other people on the internet know about. Conventions would be impossible to coalesce at this point. Then there's this cool middle phase where enough people are in the scene so that innovation and exciting developments can happen, but it hasn't been so mainstream that every douchebag who wants to appear hip lists the hobby in his Tinder bio. Think of EDM culture. When I started DJing in high school, I remember no one even called it EDM. They just called every electronic genre techno. No one had any idea why I wanted to become a superstar DJ. Later on, there was the middle phase, where if you met someone who knew what liquid drum and bass was, you could pretty much guarantee that they were slightly cooler than your average sapiens. Now we're in the douchebag phase of EDM culture, where it's become so mainstream and detached from the scene it evolved from that most of the people going to the big festivals don't even know who's playing. The point of this little rant wasn't to gatekeep, as much as to say that when you're at Knobcon, there's a palpable feeling in the air that the synth scene, and the modular scene in particular, is right in that sweet spot at the beginning of the middle phase. When walking around Knobcon, you're guaranteed to meet about 1,000 humble people who are in love with the wide world of synthesis and music. Everyone is so respectful, intelligent, and willing to help out newbies. It was such a wholesome environment of cool people supporting each other. It refreshed my outlook on humanity. And finally, the fifth thing you missed at Knobcon were the lectures. It was so awesome to get access to some of the most knowledgeable people in the industry. Some topics covered include photonic synthesis, aka synthesis by light, small eurorack setups with Novation Circuit, Tammy X breaking down her Buchla live setup, an explanation of Kurzweil's vast synthesis by Shane Eder, and an interview with Doug McKechnie, the first man to ever use a Moog modular at a rock concert, interviewed by Suit and Tie Guy, the organizer of Knobcon. My favorite, though, was on the Frontiers of Reverb by John Sonnenberg, a wizard who makes reverberation units out of bird cages and glazed tile mazes. If you haven't gone to Knobcon yet, I think this coming year would be a great time to go. Tickets were very reasonable, and the hotel was way nicer than I was expecting for the price. If you're a fan of synthesizers and synth music, I cannot explain the feeling you get when you're fully immersed in a space where everyone is so dedicated and enthusiastic about the thing you love. It's like dying and going to synth heaven, except there's no one with an annoying halo over their head telling you you're going to hell for buying a Behringer product. Hit the link on the screen to see my top 5 synth performances at Knobcon 2023, and I hope to see you at Knobcon next year.